Hello, and welcome to the series Kai Women Around the World, a show where we interview our Kai community to see how they organize their lives. Our Kai microphone traveled all over the world to get all the ins and outs about their daily routines. Are you traveling with us? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the series Kai Women Around the World. For this series, we packed up the Kai mic and sent it to different corners of the world to ask women about the ins and outs of their daily routines.
For this first episode, we sent the mic to Virginia in the United States to interview Milan Ball. Milan started her career in the fashion industry and worked for different big corporations. But during COVID, she decided to change courses. She started PHILAN, a platform where the consumer can track their impact. And next to that, she also works as a content marketing strategist for Momentum Group Tech.
So we are very thrilled to ask her about her daily routines and life hacks. Welcome, Milan.
Hi, I'm so happy to be speaking with you ladies.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm actually traveling with all of my Kai bags. It's fitting that we would be able to do this today, so I'm very excited.
You look amazing. You're here in a big screen in our studio, and we're so glad that you could make time for us in your busy schedule. And we're so excited to hear what you're going to say and how you schedule your daily routines.
Yes, it's amazing. And we're matching, which I think is fitting as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Always right. No, so to start things off, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? We try to give an introduction about you and about what you did when it comes to work, but it's always much more pleasure to hear it from yourself.
Yes, I think you guys probably have done the best summary that is possible. I have pivoted so much in my career and in my life's journey. So I love the hyphenated version. I started my undergraduate process in fashion design. I was able to work throughout my studies and realize that I do love fashion, but there are some things that I love more. And so I discovered, where my heart was as far as career goes, and just kind of followed wherever my heart was taking me. So I've done everything from corporate design to trend forecasting, working with sustainable materials. I was a buyer post-grad. That was my first role, which was a pretty big accomplishment, being that was not the degree that I had. But I've always found myself working for really amazing women that were interested in giving me a chance and giving me opportunity to thrive. So I've done influencer management. I have worked in supply chain and manufacturing. Just an abundance of things. And now I'm an app developer. So as you might imagine, I've just been bobbing and weaving and, consulting along the way. I like to think of myself as someone that's a bridge builder. And so I like speaking the different languages between people in different disciplines of the industry.
Wow, so interesting. And you have a platform, you created a platform during COVID, PHILAN, that's the name, right?
Yes, I did. In my journey of discovering companies in general, I kept encountering these social impact-driven founders and wondering why I had never heard of them. And they were sitting in the back burners of retail stores. And I wanted to, make these brands more well-known. So I connected with them, I understood their challenges and built PHILAN to expose them to the mass market. And we're still in a pre-launch phase, but it's been really exciting to connect with those founders and continue to meet their needs. And then on the other side with consumers, help them measure their own impact, because I genuinely believe that if you can better understand the impact that you're making, you're more likely to want to make more of it. So.
Perfect. And how is it to be a woman in the tech industry? Because you build a platform. I think that's also a very big challenge, right?
It is. You know what? I was just at a networking event yesterday, and it is the funniest thing. I'm still getting used to the concept of being a woman in tech, because on the side that I'm in, I work with a software tool called Bubble, and it's still very new, and it's a no-code platform. So it's one of those emerging areas within the industry that I'm really excited about. Have had some really amazing opportunities within. I did an incubator program with Bubble, have taught an academy program with Momentum Group Tech, which is where I'm at now, and I'm actually co-authoring the first book that's being published on the software.
Ooh.
So that's another really exciting thing.
Wow.
So it's a fun space to be in.
Yes, so many different things, different skills, different work topics, and so on. It must be very interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to summarize, which is why I'm so impressed that you guys brought it all together so seamlessly.
We did our best.
So as you know, this podcast or this series is about Kai women around the world, where we want to hear all about how the women who have a Kai bag and are very driven, very dynamic, how they organize your life. So Milan, tell us, how does a day in the life of Milan looks like?
My goodness, it's the day in life. I mean, I should probably start with the fact that Kai is the core of my travels. So you can see behind me the large bowler bag, which goes pretty much anywhere with me. My day-to-day is very random at times. So sometimes I'm working from home. Sometimes I am taking a train into DC, which is less than an hour. So I'm commuting pretty often. Sometimes I'm taking a train up to New York, or I'm flying somewhere, or traveling for work. So I love this bag. In addition to the bowler bag, I also have I just got the mini bowler, which I am obsessed with. So yeah, I love it. And then my casual Kai bag is the Icon belt bag, which this one is just on me at all times. Sometimes if I'm just carrying my big bowler, I can actually tuck this one inside if I want a casual outfit to change it to. But yeah, I mean, usually there's a laptop involved, a tablet. I love that everything's so interchangeable. I should also mention, I'm a very big fan of matching. So each one I have the matching card, which I just love. So yeah, I'm all over the place, but Kai really does help me stay organized because, you have all the different compartments. One of the other things that I tell people when I if I'm exposing the bag of the first time they've ever encountered it, I mentioned, the water resistant, it's so easy to clean, the sun resistance, like there's all of these other factors, being in the fashion industry and knowing about quality, it's so easy for me to be in love with it and want to sell it to other people. So usually my friends are like, oh, yeah, so it's great. And then I just got my mom one of the backpack bags.
Oh, yeah.
She was really, really big fan of, so I'm excited about that.
Wow, a real ambassador we've got here.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. I'm one of those people that when I find something that I really love, it's easy for me to just, once you trust a product and you can, discover more, and so long as I have a need for another product, another style or another use case, I'm gonna get it. So that's me.
Okay, that's really nice. Maybe back to your daily routine. Is there like a certain hour that you wake up or you go to bed? Are you like strict, or does it differs every day, or how does it go in your daily routine?
So the company that I work with, Momentum Group Tech, is actually based in Australia, and we have a global team. So sometimes I might be up pretty early. I might be up at 5 a.m. to be able to meet with the team. Even on my flight here, I had to do a 5:30 call. Sometimes it's 7 a.m. I'm an early bird, so I don't really mind it. And then there are other days where I might be up until 11 p.m. Last couple of weeks ago, we met with a client at around midnight. So it's really at the leisure of who we're working with or what we're doing, and I'll build my day around that schedule. So if I know that I need to be up pretty early, and sometimes it's too early to get into a coffee shop. So I might still pack everything for the day and know that after that call, I'll be out and about and traveling. So it really does vary.
Wow. It's something that we don't really hear a lot here in Belgium, right? That people work, like when you work with a lot of people around the world, it's much more difficult to match it with your own planning and your own agenda. Is that something you find difficult, or is it easy to adapt to all the different time zones?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I love it. When I lived in Milan, Italy for my senior year of undergrad, and then for a couple of months after. And so getting used to the time zone, I did contracted work back in New York. So that 6 hour difference, I adjusted then. And so, yeah. And so being in working with a company that's based in Australia, it's very much different, but there are so many people on the team in different places. So for instance, any given day I might be meeting with a colleague that's in Brazil, a colleague that's in Colombia, a colleague that's in Scotland, the UK, Nigeria. So, and then our clients are also all over the world. So at any given time, we might have 3 or 4 time zones that are represented. And I honestly think that it's really exciting. I wouldn't call it hard. I think it's motivating, if anything, because I know at all times of the day we have someone that's working on something. And, more often than not, there's someone that's on the clock that I could just chat with on Slack if I'm, I don't know, randomly up late working, or there's an issue or something to resolve. So it's really easy to lean on your team members when there's someone somewhere in the world that's available.
Hey, interesting.
And working with so many different time zones and like not having a very typical daily routine, which is very frequent. Is it something that you see along colleagues, and I don't mean direct colleagues, but people in your area or in region, that they live a life very much like that? Or how does it work? Do people in the US tend to have like a strict daily routine, or not at all?
I definitely think I am the exception to the rule. More often than not, people don't really grasp what it is that what it is they do day to day. Most of my friends or former colleagues are in a more structured corporate environment. So their day would probably look like waking up at 7, going to work at 8 or 9, and then spending 8 to 10 hours in the office and then going home. Sometimes my office is home. Sometimes I need a change of space, and I'll go and work at a coffee shop or a workspace in the city. Being around other people who are working is very I enjoy that. But yeah, it's very unorthodox. This is almost my 4th year doing foreign contracted work, and I really love it. I think that generally speaking, the world is opening up to more unconventional ways of work. So that's exciting. Even discussion about 4-day work weeks is really interesting. So I love the flexibility though.
Okay. So you have this very flexible timings that you work around. Is there one daily routine that you repeat? Like maybe it's a skincare routine, maybe it's just the coffee shop where you get your coffee. Is there like one routine that's the same every day, or is there anything?
I definitely have some ritualistic practices. So I do, I'm a morning person, so I can go in the morning without coffee, but I enjoy the process of making coffee or tea. Just it's something that's consistent. I do love skincare. I'm obsessed with skincare. When I go through my bag, you'll see how much skincare I have, mini sizes. But yeah, I love any sort of self-care practice. In the mornings, I might listen to the classical music. That's something that I really enjoy. So some, piano or jazz music, and that helps me really get into a peaceful state of mind, which I also enjoy. And then in the middle of the day, if I know that I have a really crazy day, I like to do some sort of workout routine, some sort of physical activity to just take me from one type of work to another. Sometimes I'll have multiple contracts going on at the time, and if I'm working on PHILAN one morning, for a few hours, and I know I'm working on momentum group tech tasks in the afternoon, if I know that switch is going to happen, I'll just throw in, an aerobics or some yoga, and just to differentiate the day and add some separation and diversity to what the experience is.
Okay. So we talked about your daily routine, but then again, especially with your timings and the hours you work and working late, working early, how do you balance your work and family life and friends on the hand, and then also your me time and your social time on the other hand? I think it's difficult to match that kind of work hours with the social life, no?
Yeah, I definitely find myself having to be intentional about how I'm managing and maintaining my relationships. So I have a pretty big family. I'm the oldest of four kids. During the pandemic, I went home to support my parents. My mom's a travel nurse, so she would be gone during the pandemic, so I would kind of be at home making sure that everything is going well, but of course also running my business and working for another business. So it can be a lot. And in terms of friendships, I always try to make sure that at the end of the day, there's someone that I am able to connect with or reconnect with. Obviously, I think when you lead a very busy life, you can get swept up in the work that you're doing. I think it's very grounding to have that, middle of the day phone call with a friend. There's a good friend of mine. She works in publishing, and we will randomly. She also works remotely, so we'll randomly schedule like a Wednesday midweek call, and I love those moments because it doesn't really matter, how hectic our day is. I can rely on that. Oh, I'll have time to chat with this person that I really love, and now I really love brunch. So on the weekends, I do make sure that I can get somewhere, have a mimosa and some good food. And yeah, you need those breaks. You need to sprinkle in moments of just joy to keep yourself afloat. It's so important, especially today when we're prone to working so hard.
Absolutely. Is there something you do especially to prioritize those things in life?
I do have a calendar, so I do. There are some things are more natural. I'm generally the type of person that I let my friends know. You can call me whenever, and because my schedule is so flexible, I do have the luxury of doing that. I think when I always take a phone call if someone just wants to talk. Of course, unless I have a client meeting or something going on, but I do have a calendar. I have a tablet that I take with me everywhere in my big bowler bag. And I love it. It's basically a replacement for paper. So it's like a digital journal, and I write all of my scheduling in there. I like having a physical record of things. And then of course also Google Calendar is life-saving.
And that you maybe introduce something else into your life to organize it. For example, housekeeping or a nanny, or I don't know if you have kids, we didn't ask. Is there anything?
No kids yet.
So no nanny also. But
yeah, but I think to that point, funny enough, I actually enjoy cleaning. So it's something that's a bit
Nadia as well. I hate it, but Nadia, she loves
I'm
it.
always coming into the office telling Jana, oh my God, I cleaned my house this weekend. I feel so relieved. I'm so happy. I'm on top of things.
And I do not understand that.
Yes, I love personal time. And so in the cleaning process, I'm always thinking. I'm a very big thinker. And sometimes if I have a really great client meeting, I might be on the quieter side because I'm someone that I really enjoy listening, but I also really enjoy processing. And so I'll take from that conversation and take it into my private time, and I'll, meditate on what solution we might need to bring to the table. And so when I'm doing mindless tasks like cleaning or organizing or moving furniture around, it kind of helps me get through that process and also be productive. So I do enjoy it.
For me, very weird, but I understand. For me, it's walking. It's not cleaning.
Yeah, I don't like walking.
I love to. So I was really keen to hear about your app, but it doesn't involve walking, sadly. But I have that when I walk in nature. Everyone has their thing. So as you know, the series of Kai Women Around the World, we send the mic to all corners of the world. And we also, of course, want to hear about your story, but we're also very curious about more in general how your region or your country deals with productivity, and how, because there's a lot of cliches going around the world, which is sometimes true and sometimes they're not. So we would like to ask you, how does the United States, or maybe even Virginia, look at productivity in their daily lives?
Ooh, that is a tricky question.
Very tricky
Or what are
question.
some typical things maybe that they implement to be more productive, or to handle their lives and their daily routines?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I know a lot of people will make sure that those rituals, so it's unconventional. For instance, when I say that I interrupt my day with those little tasks, a lot of people will get their personal time in before they go to work. So they will go to the gym. They will, make sure that they have a really big breakfast and listen to a podcast. They'll do those things before they go to work, and then have like a really long chunk of time that they're spending in the office just focused. And I think in terms of being productive in that space, if they're well charged before getting into the office, I think it makes a big difference. As well as calendar management. A few of my friends have personal assistants, and so they have someone that's a professional in organizing their life to help them. Yeah, and I think another, generally speaking, productivity point that people try to apply would probably be just I think managing expectations with their team and in those collegiate environments. So in a workspace or environment like mine, where it's very solo, very solo oriented, I am generally leaning on external partners or third parties to execute things within PHILAN. We do have a very small team, but not everyone's available. Everyone has a full-time job. So it's managing expectations in that regard. It's just a bit different. I think for Americans, it is more about what they can get out of the way before work, and then also the rest that happens after work. I don't necessarily have that challenge, because I kind of just put the rest where I need it.
In terms of cliches, are there any misconceptions you think about the US?
I think there are so many.
Okay.
So many misconceptions. Relevant to this podcast, or to this episode, I think. I think Americans are known for being very, very hardworking and cutthroat in terms of their approach to career. And I think in some cases that's true. In others, I think that at the end of the day, most Americans that I've worked with in corporate environment, are very team oriented. There can be those competitive experiences, but I think more often than not, we know that in order to succeed and to have, longevitous, fruitful experience with a team, you do have to emphasize that teamwork. And I think Americans are very very hardworking. I don't know if it's necessarily a stereotype that we're not, but I think hardworking in the sense that not always just throwing family and personal life out of the window. I think that might be a stereotype that we're just completely removed. I think when we're at work, that's all we're thinking about is going back home to our family. So those would be the ones that surface to my mind.
Okay.
And you said earlier something about in the US that a lot of people have those other people that help them in housekeeping, in having a nanny. Is it something very common in the US? There, that a lot of people who work hard try to save some time by letting other people help them in those things, so that when they're home, they can use that time to really connect with their children, with their family, who do funny stuff or stuff they really like to do, instead of cooking and cleaning and all those things.
I think it really depends. We have such a vast, there are so many different areas, I think, in the US where the cultural values are mostly aligned, but in terms of what kind of work and what households look like. So I know there are some friends of mine who are stay-at-home moms and still have very, productive lives outside of being moms, but they do, like, the love that they have for their family, like their work is managing that household. And so I think that's one very big element of our culture that, for stay-at-home moms, like that's a full-time job. So I think for them, that's something. And then I have, wonderful friends who are career women that might not have kids yet, but do still have to, keep up a marriage and maintain their homes. And in those cases, I think it's either one or the other. They're kind of like me and really enjoy the cleaning and they, getting their thoughts out, or they do have a housekeeper, or they're fortunate enough to have additional help. And I think there's a big population in the US where it's just not necessarily an option to have those things, which is why I think like women, or men too, but women are really powerhouses, like especially the ones that are running families, and the ones that don't have the option to have the extra help, I just so deeply admire, because you have the full-time job at home, you have the full-time job at work, you have to essentially, you're expected to do it all. And so, yeah, like my mom, for instance, we had a nanny when I was really young, but it was because she was putting herself through school again. And that was the only solution that we had because there was no family around. I know a lot of Americans probably have family that help with like childcare or, supporting with errands and chores at home. If you have someone living with you or nearby. But it's very different. We have a large, so many different demographics are represented in family dynamics here that it's hard to say in one place. But I think, multiple truths exist.
Of course. And I think that's the case in every country, but much more the case in the US, since it's it's a continent. We treat it like a country, but it's such a big space that it's an entire continent where obviously there's many differences depending on where you live, probably.
Absolutely.
You do lived abroad, and also you have the opportunity to talk with people from all the corners of the world. Do you think that there are some tips, things people could do that you see around the world that people in your region, let's keep it there, could benefit from to make sure that the work-life balance gets better or improved?
Oh, sure. The first thing I would say is do not be afraid to put your life and your livelihood first. I think, I think there can be a fear that if you're not the most productive person on the team, that you're disposable in the States, which, in some cases might be true for corporate environments. But I think you can't be afraid of setting yourself up for success by making sure that you're well taken care of, before stepping into the workplace. I don't think anyone can really thrive in a corporate environment without being well prepared and being, and caring for themselves. So yeah, my advice would be don't be afraid to make sure that you have the length of your lunch that you need. Don't be afraid to be a couple minutes late to work because you didn't eat anything, because you're not going to do very well in your job if you're hungry. And also managing expectations, I think, is the key to everything. So having a good relationship with your supervisor and being vocal, not being afraid to be vocal about, this is where I'm at today. I didn't have breakfast. I need to make sure that I have a coffee. It is some might say that that's a personal thing and you should be prepared. Yes. But sometimes we do all have off days. And I think part of taking care of ourselves is also letting the people that we work with and the people around us know where we're at, how productive we can be. And then that opens the door to getting support from our teams. So that's my long-winded response to that one.
No, perfect. It's very, very interesting talking to you and hearing about how flexible you can be in the US and working with different time zones. It brings us to the very last question of this episode. And that's do you have some advice for the busy women around the world if it comes to their life and organizing it?
Yes, I think the best way to make sure that you can organize your life and you can handle everything is to just sit with everything that you really love and know how to care for yourself. I don't know if we spend enough time trying to discover the things that keep us well. I stumbled into a certain type of hot yoga, and I really enjoy it. But it's not something that I sought out different like workout practices or exercises that would make me feel more great compared to another style. The type of music that you listen to start your day. Music might not always work for people, but if you're not a morning person and you don't want to hear from people, maybe you want to hear from some music. I think explore the different ways that you can start your day, end your day, interrupt your day if you need it to be, because not everything is going to work for the same person, and that's okay.
Yeah, perfect. So it really starts, the organizing part of your life really starts with the self-care and prioritizing the rest, the breaks you take in life to be more productive and to get more organized. So we really want to thank you for this conversation and the way you opened up about your life and organizing it. So thank you very much, Milan, to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. We learned a lot about the cliches, not the cliches, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.